Hey guys, thanks for watching another episode of the Pigskin Podcast. You can subscribe to our podcast on the iTunes Store or at the Google Play Store. We are here in the IdeaWorks building, and if you or a friend want a great place to work with other entrepreneurs, this is a great location for you. Like our Facebook page at IdeaWorks or come in for a tour. Curt, it's getting close to the end of the season. We've got a few teams left to play playoff games, so we brought in a few of our experts around town to do that. Carl, thanks for joining us, and Effie, thanks for joining us. You want to get us started?
Yeah. We're joined today by Carl Hunnell, who's been covering football longer than any of us, I guess, and Effie James, the gentleman to his right. And Noah, you probably didn't know this, but we're sitting with a couple guys who, in a previous life, they both played in the high school football playoffs. They didn't just they don't just cover it for us. Carl was a proud John Glenn.
Little Muskie. 1978, Little Muskie.
Yeah, they were a state semifinalist team, and F before F is a man of many talents, but before he did any of those things, he was the quarterback of the senior high Tigers.
We should have asked you all to wear your jerseys.
Right.
Yeah, in 1993, I think that was the first playoff appearance in school history. So thanks for being here, guys. We certainly appreciate it, and it's just kind of a roundtable today, talking about the season that was and the second season, the playoffs, and we're into the regional semifinal round. The playoffs opened last week. We had 6 area teams in, and we got 4 of them through to this week, and it's an exciting time. And Carl, let's start with you. You've been our Clear Fork beat writer all year long, and the Colts just keep finding ways to win.
I tell you, it's been a fun ride with those guys. Dave Carroll, his brother Mike, who runs his defense. It's funny because both of those guys, I think, are old school football coaches.
They
but
certainly are.
Some of the things they do on offense and defense are so much more modern.
Right.
I don't think, in fact, I know for a fact, Clear Fork hasn't huddled on offense once the entire season. Defensively, they don't huddle. They've just been a fun team to watch. 2 overtime wins during the season, one of which they'll get to see again Friday night at Arlen Field when they play Bellevue. They won another game on a last-second field goal. But then they've had some blowouts. They've beaten some teams pretty good. In fact, they're averaging, I think, somewhere along the lines of, if I check real quick, I wrote it down, 33, 34 points a game, and they're only giving up 9 points a game.
Right.
So they're a fun team to watch. I look forward to seeing them under the really good lights at Arlen Field. It's fun to take pictures there because it's a great place, and it should be a heck of a rematch between 2 good teams.
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, and if you could speak to this, I'm sure you saw them too. The Colts are living a charmed life this year.
Absolutely.
I mean, they're finding ways to win, and that's what it's all about, especially this time of year.
It's great to see the evolution of Clear Fork and over the years, and like Carl mentioned, now they are, no huddle. They're kind of spread it out where, I can remember a time where Clear Fork in their early years in the OCC were grinded out, double tights, run the ball 50, 60 times a game, and they would live with the results. And they have evolved, and Coach Carroll has done a great job of taking advantage of the talent that he has. And he certainly has some star power. Trevon Trammell.
Trammell, yes.
Just an awesome athlete. The quarterback,
Blake Dinsmore.
Dinsmore. Those kids are really, really impressive. And when you think of Clear Fork athletes, they're not the prototype Clear Fork athlete, but they make a big difference in Clear Fork and really have made a big difference in their season this year since I've seen them.
Yeah, and Blake, it's kind of interesting. I mean, he started at Clear Fork, right? And he spent 2 years at Madison. He came back to his hometown, I guess, for his final year, and he's made a big difference for them this all season long here.
Yeah, Dave has done nothing but sing his praises since he came back, because he said he's done nothing but be a team leader since he first came back into the hallways. Blake this year has rushed through 11 games for 950 yards, 19 touchdowns. He's passed for 1,121 yards and 10 touchdowns. So more than 2,000 yards total offense out of him. But I think one of the things I find interesting is he also starts in the secondary on defense. He's their long snapper, usually the first one down on a punt after he snaps the ball, making tackles. He's on the kickoff coverage team, the punt coverage team. He shared time at quarterback this year with a junior named Jared Schaefer. But Blake will be, Jared got hurt in the Marion Pleasant game in week 9, He's been kind of ouchy ankle since then. Really didn't play quarterback in week 10. Played a little bit in week 11. But so you look at those stats; those are sharing time.
Right.
The thing I say about Blake Dinsmore is he has to be among. I covered. We're just saying before we started. I covered my first high school football playoff game in 1980 in Ironton. And trust me, you can't get to Ironton from here. You have to go to Huntington, West Virginia, to Ashland, Kentucky, and then come back.
You got to charter a flight to get
you
to
really do. Went to 3 states to cover a high school game. But he is one of the most elusive quarterbacks. You saw him a little bit in that game against Marion Pleasant. Yes. Just when you think you've got him zeroed in with 2 or 3 guys, he literally transports himself left or right about 3 yards, and he's still going. I mean, he's a very fun high school quarterback to watch.
Another fun high school quarterback to watch is a guy just up the street here in Shelby, Brennan Armstrong, and the Whippets are into the second round. They'll play St. Mary's Memorial here at Marion Harding on Friday, and after you've seen them quite a few times there, that's a pretty darn good Division IV football team.
Absolutely. I mean, the thing is, and like I said before, I go in to watch a team that I haven't seen play, and I watch them very critically. And I thought, well, Shelby's probably a bit overrated. Brennan Armstrong is a good athlete for Shelby, for that division, and the other guys are. But when I saw them play, I was instantly impressed with the fact that they are, number one, very athletic. They are huge up front, and they play very disciplined football. Right. They played some mediocre teams this year or less, and they completely dominated them, and they could have really got ugly and got cute with teams, but they didn't. They were about business this year, and you could tell they were a team on a mission. And like you said, Brennan Armstrong is absolutely special, and I don't give away those accolades to kids because I know how hard it is to play Division I football. Sure. So I don't say every kid that's good, oh, he's a Division I talent. I don't generally do that, but Brennan Armstrong is certainly capable and ready to play Division I football. He's a special athlete.
And I don't know if you guys have heard or not, but their story in the Minneapolis paper said that Brennan has reopened his recruiting here recently. Yeah. So he is he's kind of a free agent again, I guess.
Maybe we should have him back on the show. Though.
Yeah, we'll have him back on to see if he has any announcements.
These guys here could probably use Brennan Armstrong.
I think any MAC team would be happy to have him.
You know, I did not see Shelby play this year, but I know after covering them several times last year, Eric Will, I believe, has done a tremendous job coaching Shelby. Obviously, every coach is better when he has great players. Sure. And with guys like Brennan Armstrong and Shorty Brooks, and just hard-nosed Shelby kids. Yeah. I mean, there's some schools around the area that when you play them, they're just going to not be afraid to hit you in the mouth. Right. Clear Fork, Madison, Shelby, those teams are just going to get physical with you from the get-go. And the success that Shelby has had in the last couple of years. I mean, this is a team, and I grew up when I first started covering. I covered a lot of games on the Ohio River. Right. And I was not became a believer of Shelby when they gave Steubenville all they wanted last year in the regional
championship game. That's
I mean, they had the much feared Big Red on the ropes much of that game.
They certainly did.
And I said to myself then, all the guys they got coming back, watch out for Shelby next year.
Yeah, and there's the next year following. I mean, their quarterback, who filled in during the first 3 or 4 games.
Yeah, the first 3 games.
He pretty much picked up the reins without missing a beat. He was fantastic.
Without Brennan back there, a guy named McGuire Albert kind of took over there. And I tell you what, if that's the future Shelby football, the future looks pretty bright. I mean,
for sure.
And as far as the present goes, there's not a lot of holes in that team. I mean, that's a team that might be playing in Week 15.
Well, I was telling somebody a couple of weeks ago, probably the second best team in that league may be Shelby's backups. They've played.
Absolutely.
They have played. Those kids have played a lot of varsity football. They've run clocked everybody that they played this year, and and Coach Will, I think, has done an outstanding job of getting his guys enough playing time. He doesn't pull them too early, and when the time has come where the other team has given up, he'll put his kids in, and those kids come in ready to play. Right. And they play hard, and they're getting valuable varsity experience, and you can't replace that. No more different than what the Shelby kids got last year coming into this season.
Right. Another area team who survived, I say, because Ashland Ashland somehow somehow managed to come back from 20 points down in the fourth quarter at Columbus Mifflin last year, and they're playing high school football royalty this weekend. They're taking on Massillon, Washington over at Fowles Field in Worcester, and the Arrows they're a fun bunch to watch, but they're going to have their hands full Friday night.
Absolutely, man. I just think that their offense is built to score. And I think in this area, in this conference, they have proven to be a dominant team. But like you said, Massillon, Washington brings a totally different challenge. I mean, they're going to be bigger, faster, stronger, pretty much at every position, and they are going to bring tradition with them. And sometimes that's worth points in a playoff game.
Sure. And and no disrespect to Ashland, but Massillon's a different animal altogether. I mean, Ashland played Worcester in Week 10, and Massillon plays McKinley in Week 10. There's a little difference there.
There's one advantage Ashland might have going for them. Even with all of Massillon's traditions, how many state titles have they ever won on the field? That would be 0.
Right.
Point.
Even though they're not Division I anymore, they dropped down. They've never won a state title on the field.
And during the playoff era, which started in 72. So
72.
That's a pretty big sample size there.
But they do usually have a live tiger on the sideline, which can be very disconcerting. It's in a cage. Relax, no, it's in a cage. But it's an honest-to-God live tiger.
It's a tiger cub. I think he's Obi. Is he Obi?
Obi. Yeah, Obi.
Yeah. The fourth area team, and I know a little bit more about them than everyone else here, is the Hillsdale Falcons, my alma mater. Full disclosure, I have a nephew playing for them, so I'm kind of partial to the Falcons. But they finished tied for third in the Wayne County League, and if you know small school football, there's the Midwest Athletic Conference out on the western edge of Ohio with Coldwater and Marion Local and those schools. I tell you what, in the tier below the MAC is the Wayne County League in terms of small school football. It's pretty rugged. I mean, they had 3 teams qualify for the playoffs last week, and all 3 of them won, and none of them were real close in that first round. So the Falcons. They'll play Cary this week at Highland High School down near Marengo, and I don't know if you guys know much about them, but they're a fun bunch to watch, and Tom Williams has done a dynamite job.
Yeah, I know I've heard a little bit. I'm sorry, Carl, but I've heard a little bit about them and the competition level that they play, and like you said, I've heard a lot about that league being very competitive. So it's great. Again, it's just great to have area teams involved in postseason. Sure. It's been a while since we've been able to talk about this many teams playing in the postseason from this area. So that's just nice in general. And then having your alma mater play, that's got to be even better.
It's exciting stuff.
Yeah.
I'll give you a little bit of hope here. Cary is obviously beatable. I mean, didn't Winford beat them during the regular season?
I think Cary finished 4th in the end.
Yeah. So there's certainly. I mean, I think Hillsdale has a great opportunity to be playing in Week 13.
Right. And Effie mentioned it. I think it leads to a broader conversation. I mean, the football in the area has really improved here in the last. There was a time, and not too long ago, when it was a basketball area, and I think that pendulum has kind of swung the other way. And now, I mean, the regional semifinals is the equivalent of a district championship game in basketball, and we had 6 teams playing there, and it's been and granted, there's more divisions in football, but I mean, it's been a long time since we've had a bunch of basketball teams playing for district titles, and it seems like every year now we're getting 5 or 6 teams into the playoffs during football.
Yeah, I agree with that. The football, maybe, and I can't say the popularity has gotten better because I think kids have always played football, but I think the success of it in some of the schools individually, and I know, in the case of Mansfield Senior, they have been on, the success he's had year after year after year, and Coach Bradley has done an outstanding job of building that entire program. Right. And I look at some schools in the area, and they're struggling in the lower areas where, Mansfield's done well this year, but I'm able to look in the younger levels, and they have tremendous middle school, freshman, junior varsity levels. So, and I'm starting to see that more with more schools. And because of that, that's why I think we're getting the boom back in the popularity of football, and then the success comes with more kids being involved and then more kids taking it seriously.
Right, and Mansfield Senior, they were a playoff team this year. We'll talk a little about them, but they're a playoff team who was starting a bunch of sophomores.
Yes.
I mean, they're not as good as they're going to be. Right. They're not going to be that good for a couple years still. So, I mean, to get to the playoffs this year with a sophomore-dominated roster is pretty impressive. And they played at Bay Village last week. And F and I were talking off camera here a little bit before, and when they made the playoffs a couple years ago, and they played Massillon Perry, and Massillon Perry had Keyshawn Sims, who was Mr. Football, and probably about 3 offensive linemen who were going to go play in Division I someplace. Right. You know, that game was never in doubt. You know, I mean, Perry was going to win that game, and they did. They won, I think, 35-0. Right. This past week, Senior High was at Bay Village, and that was a winnable game, and I think that's what was disheartening for Chioke Bradley more than anything else, is because they absolutely could have beaten that team.
Sure.
And that's the thing about playoff football games. The ball can bounce so many different ways. The second year that when I was in Fostoria and they won their second state title, wasn't my second year there, but they were getting ready to play Akron-Buchtel in the state championship game over at Massillon. And I asked Fostoria's coach, Dick Kidwell, before the game, I said, how are you guys going to do? Buchtel's bigger, stronger, faster? He said if we played them 10 times, they'd win 9. We can only hope this is the one. And Buchtel made a few mistakes early. Fostoria capitalized. They won the game.
That was the one.
They won the game 14. And I reminded him after the game, he said, I didn't say we couldn't beat them. I said we could beat them once out of 10. That was the one.
There it is. Very good.
A couple other A teams, and Noah, you probably had a better look at Lucas the past 2 years than anyone, and that was a kind of a disheartening loss. I mean, that was another game, a winnable football game that kind of gets slipped away.
Yeah, I think both years that I covered it. Last year, I don't remember who they played.
Harlington,
and then this year when they lost as well. The coaches and the players all said that they just got off to a slower start than they wanted to. And I just don't think that the bone rolled the way they wanted to. They're a very running game heavy team,
sure.
and I think that if I can remember correctly, Jeb Grover, their leading rusher and one of the 2 leading scorers for the team, only rushed like 58 yards. Yeah. So he just wasn't able to move the ball the way that they had been, and they just weren't really able to play at the sort of quick and fast pace that they had been playing at all season long. They also are still in the process of throwing the ball a little bit better, and at the beginning of the year, Coach Spittler told me that they weren't worried about quantity so much as quality of their passing plays, and that just wasn't working out for them. And then also, not blaming referees or anything, but they got a lot of penalties against them that I was photographing on the Lucas side, so of course I heard complaints for each call. But yeah, so I just think that we interviewed the Hogger brothers last time we made an episode, and they were expecting to go a lot further than the first round, and I think knowing that made it an even more heartbreaking loss for myself, at least on the sidelines. And I just think that they really expected more out of the team this year.
Right. And we've spoken about it before. Every little thing is magnified in the playoffs. I mean, everyone's good. Everyone runs the ball. Everyone can defend the run. Everyone,
exactly.
You can't have those breakdowns. And if you're getting penalized or if you're turning the ball over, those are the things that in a game between 2 otherwise even teams, those are the things that'll kill you.
Yeah, and I firmly believe, especially when you get to the playoffs, you have got to be able to run the ball and pass the ball.
Yes. Right.
Because the teams that you're going to meet, if it's not at week 11, it's going to be 12, 13, 4. Somebody's going to be able to take something away. If all you can do is basically run, they're going to stop you. All you can do is pass, with the exception of Kenton a few years ago when the mock kids were over there, because nobody could stop their pass. If you're fairly one-dimensional, it's hard once you get to the playoffs. And
Lee Owens, the Ashland University coach, calls it playing left-handed. Someone's going to make you play left-handed at some point. You better be able to do some things in the other part of the game that you don't emphasize quite as much. So.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think another thing about playoff football, and I think you mentioned it earlier, how the mistakes are magnified so much, and turnovers are, almost like a death sentence in playoff football.
Absolutely.
If you turn the ball over in a playoff game, that just, it kills your drive, not only your drive, but it shifts momentum. I can remember in the first playoff game that we played Chioke in my senior year, we were under, obviously we were outmanned by playing Massillon, Washington, but we thought we can come in and play, and we had a nice first run, but we ended up fumbling in that first drive. And after that, next thing I remember, I mean, it was like I blacked out. I looked up, it was 35-0, and we were on the bus going home. I mean, and the only thing I really remember is the fumble, because it changed the course of the game, and turnovers in playoff games just magnify everything.
It's not even turnovers in terms of like fumbles or interceptions. You also just got to be able to make your PATs, and if you're going to go for 2, you better make it, and especially in playoff football.
Haunted Lucas last week.
Well, yeah, I mean, totally. They missed a field goal kick, and then or a PAT kick, and then they also missed a 2-point conversion, and that was how they lost by 1 point. So it was yeah.
I like to thank you for bringing up bad memories of playoff losses. 1978 against Hamilton Baden in the state semifinals, we lost 7-0. We fumbled inside their 5 twice. We had 2 interceptions inside their 20, and we lost 7-0. And we had a touchdown called back on a holding call.
But you never did it again.
Well,
that was it for me. I was done.
And that was what, almost 40 years ago. So those things kind of.
Some things in football, I don't care if you don't huddle or what. Some things never change.
Absolutely.
You put the ball on the ground, or you don't take care of the football, you're going to lose.
And those things tend to stick with you, I guess, too.
When he was talking about losing a playoff game after that's what I would tell every senior that's playing still this weekend. You will talk about the game you're about to play for the rest of your life. And even if you don't, when you go to a class reunion, somebody's going to remind you. Hey, remember that time you guys played? You got beat. Yeah.
Unfortunately, yeah. It's it really is a special time, and as it gets peeled down and you get further into the tournament, I mean, those are things that stick with you forever. So I think that's going to do it for us today. I appreciate everyone tuning in, and guys, thanks for being here, and hopefully we'll get a few teams through this weekend, and maybe we'll bring you back next week.
All right, look forward to it.
Yeah, make sure to subscribe to the Pigskin Podcast on iTunes or Google Play.